Hi, good evening, everybody. Before I start, I'm just going to give you guys a minute or two just to pop in and say hello. How's everybody doing this evening? I hope you guys are doing well. I'm going to just give it another minute or two, and then I'm going to start this thing off and just share a portion of my heart and part of my testimony of something that took place in my life over a period of almost 2 years now. Man, okay, I'm gonna wait one more minute and I'm gonna go ahead. Okay, all right, you guys. Can you guys hear me? First of all, I need to know that you guys can hear me. I got a little earpiece on and I want to make sure it's working. So if you guys can hear me, just comment yes or just say something in the comments box. Okay. I see some of you guys commenting on the bottom, so that lets me know you guys can hear me. Okay, tonight I'm just gonna like share a portion of my testimony, and basically, this testimony is something that for a long time I did not want to share. I didn't want to go into details about it because it was something that, I was so embarrassed about, something that, deeply troubled my heart, something I just didn't want anybody to know about because I was so ashamed of what happened and what took place. But basically, as I told you guys, I know for those of you that follow my posts all the time, a lot of times you see me saying, "Well, don't settle," or you're worth so much more. Don't settle for just any person, whether it's a man or a woman. If a man, you have a lady, don't just settle for less than, or a woman, don't just settle for less than when it comes to a man. So what prompted me to just discuss this is because it's been on my heart lately, because I've kind of been just reflecting back on, where I was like a year and a half, 2 years ago, all the way up to where I am now. And basically I was like, okay, God, I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna share something that almost destroyed me completely. Almost, destroyed my heart. Did it cause some damage? Yes, it did. But I'm still here. I'm still standing. So I'm gonna go ahead and flow with it. It's probably gonna take a minute. So I pray you guys have the time. It's kind of long, but I feel like it's necessary to share because it's gonna help somebody. It's gonna help somebody who's been on that path, who's going on that path, or it's gonna help somebody that's in that relationship that doesn't know their worth. So, okay. My testimony starts out with my marriage. I was married almost 4 years. Me and my ex-husband, we were together a little over 6 years. And I started dating him at a young age. I was 19, he was 29 during the time, so he was, 10 years older than me. I was young, didn't really know who I was, didn't really know my worth. I didn't have anybody in my younger days, excuse me, tell me, well, you're worth much more than this, or, don't just settle for anybody, or so wait on God. I didn't have anybody during that time period to tell me that. So when I met my ex-husband, things were good. I mean, I was like, wow, this man come out of something like a storybook. Because I had never met a man like him in my life. And that's the truth. During that time, I had never met a man like him. Somebody who accepted me, flaws and all. Somebody who didn't judge me. Somebody who loved me for me. Somebody who, at one point in time, I could just be myself with. So I'm like, wow, God, like, you know, this is amazing because, you know, before I met him, I was in a bad relationship. where I was being beat on every day, and I ultimately almost lost my life because the man I was with tried to kill me. And I'm like, I don't even know what a good man is. I don't know how it feels to be, treated good. So when I met him, I was like, oh my God, like, excuse me. I'm like, this stuff really happens. Fairy tales happen. You find your Prince Charming. So I thought I found my Prince Charming. Me and him were dating. Everything was going good. We did face some opposition. He got sent away for put it like this, doing something he ain't had no business doing. During that time, I found God, and literally the relationship really pushed me to God, truth be told, because I didn't have a relationship with God at all. Started going to church, got my life in order. I was just so excited. Oh my God, I have the Lord in my life. Things are going amazing. I'm gonna, share this with this individual, and in hopes that, they can learn something as well. So, we were separated for a while. He went into that bad place. And as I said, during this time period, my faith, my belief, my relationship in God, it grew stronger, and I was on the right path. And then, women, we know I don't know if it's just the intuition, but we know when something is not right about our mate. We know when something is not right about our spouse or your significant other, because it's like a alert. It goes off in you. So I started sensing all these different things. Like, I felt like he was, talking to other women. I felt like, he was dibble-dabbing and stuff he didn't have no business dibble-dabbing in. And just that, he was heading on a whole different direction. So, me being who I am, I was like, okay, God, I hope what I'm feeling is just my mind. I hope that it's just me overthinking, because that's really what I thought it was. And back in June of 2015, one day out the blue, I get a call, and in that call, he tells me, "I'm not coming home. I'm done. I want a divorce." So I'm looking like, what? A divorce? Because I couldn't wrap my mind around, like, this man, that I've been with since I was 19 years old. This man who was my first love, the first man who accepted me, the first man who really just showed that he cared, would tell me that he no longer loved me, he no longer wanted to be married to me, and so forth. So I couldn't figure out. So I was like, my Lord, God, what did I do that was so wrong that I would have to sit here and have this person, begin to act the way they was acting toward me? What did I do that was so wrong that he wouldn't want to, he don't love me no more? And I didn't understand, y'all. I blame myself, because I'm like, I started looking at myself like, well, maybe you need to lose weight. Maybe you need to do something different with your hair. Maybe you need to stop nagging and so forth. So I was basically looking at myself as if I was the problem. And, I wasn't the problem. I had some issues, but I wouldn't say I was the problem. So as I'm looking at myself, I'm trying to figure out, like, God, what did I do that was so wrong? Why didn't my husband want to, be with me? Why my husband just want to leave? Why does he want a divorce? And I remember during this time period, I know I do this. I'm pretty sure some of you ladies do it. We get the searching, and we get the digging, and we get the finding stuff. So I'm the type of person, I've always said, if I find out about somebody doing something, I would rather you come tell me versus me finding out from the next person. So did my digging, did my research, and I found out it was another woman. And I'm not going to call her name out. I could, but the petty days is over with. But I found out he was dating a married woman and living with a married woman. Excuse me, I don't know, my nose itching. Whatever. But anyway, found out he was dating a married woman, living with a married woman with her husband. I know, crazy concoction. The wife, the husband, and the side dude living there. And he would say, Brittany, it's not what you think. You know, it's just a friend. So as I said, I did my digging, I did my research. You know, Facebook, you know, people put everything on Facebook. So I remember I was just on Facebook and I came across a woman's page. And on the page she was hooked up with my husband during the time. And y'all, I literally had to take 5 or 6 looks to make sure I was seeing what I thought I was seeing, what I knew I was seeing. So I remember seeing this and my heart stopped. And I'm like, so this is why he wants the divorce. You know, this is why he's talking about leaving, and this is why he's giving all these different demands. And, you know, he got to the point where he wanted me to physically change myself. And I'm like, you loved me for who I was because I gave you who I was in the beginning. Now you're trying to change who I am physically. So he began to say things like that. And I didn't understand why. So when I came across this information, I was like, my God, that's why. And it was like the ultimate betrayal. Like, y'all, I'm telling you, when I found out about this, I brought it to his attention, and we were talking, and, you know, I'm like, you lied the whole time. This is why you want a divorce. And I remember this man, y'all. I remember this man telling me I got exactly what I deserved. I remember this man telling me, you know, you didn't want to change yourself for me, so I'm going to do me. And I just remember, you know, telling him, like, do you hear what you're saying? Do you realize it's me you're talking to? I'm your wife. You know, why are you doing this to me? And, y'all, he had no regard. He had no regard at all. So, with that, I remember me being who I was during that time. I'd have matured a lot now. I remember I contacted this little girlfriend, and I was like, do you know this is a married man? Do you know this man was just down here spending time with me, his wife? If she ever approached him about it, I couldn't tell you. I've never personally spoke to her. I remember he changed his number, and everything went silent for months. I didn't hear from him for months. And y'all, I remember I literally, I cried and I wept. When I tell you I wept, I hollered, I wept. I didn't want to eat. I was in a place of, I was discouraged, y'all. I was hurting. And I remember every day I went in my prayer room, and I remember I would literally ball up like a little baby and just rock my own self back and forth. And I remember saying, God, how could you let this happen? How could you let my husband walk away? Why is she enjoying my husband? You know, I began to say, God, why the betrayal? You know, I was there, and literally when it was just me and him, when all we had was each other, I was there. You know, when we had our ups, when we had our downs, I was there. I never left. You know, I was the faithful wife, and, you know, everything. And I just didn't understand. And I remember I began, and I'll be honest, I began to really worship my husband because I was all about my husband. I was more about my husband than I was about God. And, you know, the word tells us that God is a jealous God. He don't want no man before him. So I remember putting all my heart, my mind, my body, my soul into my husband during the time. Yet I wasn't really giving God anything. And, you know, I didn't understand, like, okay, God, I'm going to do better, God. You know, I kept telling God, okay, Lord, if you just fix my marriage, if you do this, God, I'm going to serve you more. You know, I'm going to stop worshiping him. I'm going to stop putting him on a pedestal and all that. And I just remember Seemed like the more I prayed, the worse it got. Literally, y'all. In the process of going through this, and this is how people do you. This is how people do you. When a person know they done you wrong, they try to make you look bad. He did everything from slander my name. I know he went and told his family lies, friends lies. So basically he was making me look like I was a bad person, which, I mean, I had my flaws, but if you would have heard like the stories that were being told about me, it was ridiculous. So I'm like, my God, like, people, if they believe that stuff, I'm like, something gotta be going on if these folks really believe this. And especially if so many people claim to have God or a relationship with God, they'll be able to see through that. But I'm like, wow, God, it's one thing to face the betrayal and to be, disrespected and just go through that stuff, but to have your name slandered and have people looking at you just like you crazy. I mean, it was just, I'm like, God, how can I mean, how do I get past that? And I'm like, this man talking about me, and people looking at me funny. Some people even stopped talking to me because of him, because I guess with him doing what he wanted to do, he wanted to kind of reverse it on me, so to speak. And still, I didn't lie on him. I spoke the truth. The truth was ugly, but hey, the truth had to be told. There's three sides to the story. That's your side, that's that person's side, and that's God's side. And one thing about me, as I said, I've never once slandered him. I never, even to this day, in spite of whatever happened, I would never slander his name, because it's not my character. I can only tell the truth, be about the truth, and tell my portion, and and did tell this testimony, because this is a part of the healing I've went through and continue to go through each and every day. So as I said, he wanted a divorce, and it was back and forth. It was like, I knew his mind. Like, when the enemy get hold to you, it's just a lot of confusion. One minute he wanted to work on his marriage, the next minute he wanted to stay where he wanted to stay at, and she was taking care of him, from my understanding. And I just was like, okay, God, like, how I deal with this? Because as I said, I was in a bad place, and it got so bad, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all. I'm gonna be honest with y'all how bad it got. It got so bad, y'all, that I had to go to the hospital. I went into the hospital. I almost had a stroke. That's how bad it got. And I was like, my Lord, by the grace of God, and I thank God every day that I did not have a stroke, because that stuff was so heavy on me. Having to put up, this smiley face every day, and, like everything was fine, yet behind closed doors, nobody knew my pain. Nobody knew what I had to suffer. Nobody knew, what was going on in my heart. And I was like, God, how do I pour out to these people? How do I love on these people while I'm hurting? How do I lead while hurting? How do I lead while I'm wounded? How can I heal while I'm wounded? So I was just like, my Lord. And I remember during this time, I really just had to look at myself, y'all. I really had to look at myself and just say, Brittany, is this really what you want for your life? Is it really what you want for your life? I know, don't get me wrong, God honors marriage. He does. But all marriages are not called by God. And that's the truth. All marriages are not called by God. Because sometimes we yoke up, and that's why I say we have to be careful who we yoke up with. Because when you get to yoking up with these different people, it'll mess you up, especially those that God did not call. And a lot of us get in those marriages that God didn't put us in. And in my case, I was in a marriage that God was not in. You know, I prayed, God showed me the signs, this and that. But really, it wasn't God. God wasn't in that at all. It was my flesh. That's why we got to be careful, because the flesh speaks, and sometimes the flesh, if you let it, it can speak louder than God. So I was hearing my flesh speak. I was hearing what Brittany wanted to hear. And don't get me wrong, I had several people tell me, girl, don't marry him. But me being young and being, that's the only person that accepted me and this and that, I went ahead and did it because I loved him. I love that man with my whole heart. But as I said, I got into that place where I began to seek God more, and my relationship had begun to grow stronger with God. And I was like, God, I don't, if it's not of you, I don't want it. And I know it's going to hurt if you take it. But I'd rather it hurt and you take it than for me to stay in it and continue to go through any unnecessary pain. I stood on the wall, I prayed, I fasted, but I got to the point where I was tired, y'all. I was, tired of being made out of a fool, was tired of the lies. Then, having a woman, I actually had a woman call me and tell me that she had slept with him. Y'all can only imagine how embarrassing it was to me for me to have somebody say, well, I slept with your husband, or the tattoo that's on your husband's body of you, he told me you was his dead cousin. Yo, I'm telling you, the things that I heard, just the different lies, sometimes I had to laugh at them. And even now, when I do think about it, I laugh about it because it's just so funny the extremes people will go to just to make themselves look good. As I said, he said he wanted to work the marriage out, and we tried to work on it, but it takes two. It takes two to make that marriage work. And his mouth said it, but his actions were far from it. And me, I'm just like, I'm up here trying to make it work. And, I had to really pray about that thing, y'all, because, y'all, I lost myself in that marriage. Like, my final year and a half of my marriage, I really lost myself as a woman. I was willing to compromise. I was willing to do anything he wanted me to do just so he could come home, just so he would accept me, and just so he would love me. And you know why I was willing to do that? Because I didn't know my worth as a woman. I didn't know my worth as a young lady. I didn't know that, yes, God has somebody out there that's much better. Somebody that's going to treat you how you need to be treated. See, I wasn't looking at that. All I was looking at is this man I had been with all these years. The only man during the time period that my heart really loved and desires. The man that I shared so many nights and so many moments, so many ups and downs and whatever the case may be. All I was doing was looking at that. But I come to the conclusion that you can't devalue yourself for the sake of being in a relationship with a man. If that man wants you, that man gonna love and accept you for who you are. That man is not gonna to jeopardize you. That man is gonna treat you how God would have him to treat you. And see, as I said, I didn't know my worth as a woman. I was willing to settle. I was willing to compromise. And I was going to compromise everything about me for him. And I said, you know what, God? I said, I refused to settle for less. I refuse to settle for what your hand is not a part of. I refuse to settle for being the wife, but also, if you look at it, I was kind of being the side chick because he was treating the side chick like she was the wife. You understand what I'm saying? I got to that point where I just refused it. Even though it hurted me a lot, It hurted me to watch my husband during the time go live with a married woman, then her divorce her husband for my husband, and him take care of her kids and take care of her and, take care of bills in the household while he left his wife to struggle and and go through and I couldn't comprehend it. I'm like, God, is this man backwards? But I come to the conclusion, hey, if that was what he wanted, he could have that. Um, we got to the divorce. I signed divorce papers in June of this year. And I remember when I signed those divorce papers, I'm like, okay, God, I don't know what's going to happen from this point. And I just remember him telling me, he said, I love you. He said, I really don't want a divorce. And y'all excuse me, I don't know, it must be the dust or something. My nose is just acting up. But I remember him saying, I love you, I don't want a divorce, and all that stuff. And yet you're being put up to do it, but you're still doing it willingly. Nobody can put a gun to your head and force you to divorce your spouse. Nobody can do that. So it came down to it where there was no fight left in me. There was no fight left in me. I was fighting a battle that I was never supposed to fight. I was in a marriage that God's hand wasn't in. I was in a marriage that I wanted to be in because I wanted to stay married to somebody who accepted me, but they really didn't accept me. You see, people, they didn't know that pain. That pain right there, oh my God. When I tell y'all, when I look back at 2015 and I look at my life now, I'm single now. And yes, being single does get lonely, but I will never settle again. I will never settle again. And as women, we cannot settle. We can't change ourselves just to please somebody. If that man can accept you for who you are, if that woman can accept you for who you are, then they can keep it moving. You have to be yourself. It got to the point where, yes, he accepted me in the beginning, but in the end, he tried to change me. He wanted me to be this picture perfect thing that he wanted me to be. He changed from this man who called himself loving God and I'm going to treat you how God want me to treat you. You're my wife. To somebody I didn't even know. And for a long time it hurt. Like I was telling somebody today, it's a little residue, just a little residue that's still there because I'm still getting through my healing. But I'm at a place in my life where I know that there is life after divorce. There's life after a bad relationship. There's life. I was trying to cling on to something that I wasn't supposed to hold on to. It used to scare me, and I'm going to tell y'all the truth. It used to scare me if God, I was like, and I used to say this, y'all, I hope God don't tell me to, ever leave my husband, because I would lose my mind. But I didn't lose my mind. I'm still here. I'm still standing. After my divorce was finalized in August, a week after it was finalized, my ex-husband married the woman that he was having the adulterous affair with. I know, right? Boom. He married her. Did I feel a certain type of way? I was just like, dang, you married mighty quick. But at the same time, he is no longer my problem. That's something that you're going to have to deal with. Y'all had to sin to get each other's relationships and to be in a relationship you in. So you're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to walk that thing out, and you're going to have to accept the consequences that come along with it. Because, if he can cheat on me with you and cheat on you with me plus other women, what makes you think he's going to change in a marriage? Hello? It doesn't work that way. But, yes, that was something I dealt with, and I was just like, God, I didn't understand during the time why I went through what I went through, but now I see exactly what it is that I had to go through. I see the importance of it. And my, Lord have mercy, Jesus. Whew. I thank God for it. If it took me going through that, y'all, so I can be here to help some more people, then my Lord, I thank God for it. Bible tells us to give thanks in everything. And even in a bad situation like that, I had to give God thanks. You know, I had to give him that thanks because I know that God, he's not going to put nothing on us more than we can bear. And if I can get through it, you can get through it. But the point of what I'm trying to say is don't settle. Don't ever settle. I don't care who it is. Before you get married, lay on your face. Pray, seek God. Ask God for confirmation. Don't just yoke up with anybody, because when you begin to yoke up with people are sent on assignment to try to destroy you, to try to take you out. That's what the enemy does. He knows our desires just as well as God. If you open your mouth, pray and say, God, I want this type of man to do this. I want that type of man. The enemy is very much alert. He knows what you're asking God for if you open your mouth. So yes, him being who he is, he's going to send in the counterfeit. He's going to send in that person, they match everything, that you think you wanted. But I'm telling you, that's why it's very, very, very important to seek God when you get in these relationships with people. Because all these relationships are not of God. Some people are just your assignment. Some people are there for you to help, not for you to get in relationships with, sleep with, marry, and so forth. And it took me a long time to understand that. And I'm just at a place in my life, as I said earlier, y'all, and I keep saying it. I refuse to settle for less than. I refuse to settle for anybody. I have so many different men. I mean, they be in my inbox, comments, even, when I go out. Men coming at me, and, don't get me wrong. The temptation's been there, to fall into the traps. Yes, the temptation's been there. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Because as I said, it get lonely. It get lonely on this walk. It gets very lonely. And I just have to ask God, nobody perfect. We fall. But I always have to ask God, Lord, you give me that strength. You give me the strength to be able to not fall into temptation. You give me the strength to continue to move forward and continue to keep standing on your word, because God has a person ordained, prepared, set aside, perfected for each and every one of us. We all have an equal mate in this world. Yes, sometimes we got to be in that place. Not sometimes. We always got to be in that place, y'all. We have to be in preparation, but during your waiting time, you got to prepare yourself. You got to get your life in order, because two messes ain't going to work together. That's a recipe for disaster. If he a mess, you a mess, or she a mess, he a mess, it's not going to work, because y'all both are damaged. You're damaged. And it's not going to work. Get in a place with God where you can dedicate your whole heart, body, and soul to God. Love on God. Let God love on you. And that's what I'm doing every day. I'm learning more and more to let God love on me and me love on him. Because if God ain't in it, y'all, if he ain't in it, I don't want a part of it. I really don't. I don't want a part of it at all. I'm telling you. Because I know that enemy, as I told y'all, he hear you. He know what you want. He know the type of man you want. And he gonna send it. He gonna send the deception. He gonna send the counterfeit. And if you thinking, this is the man for me, this and that, you better get on your face. You better pray. You better fast. You better ask God for confirmation. You better seek the Father all the way when it comes to that. Because God is going to reveal that person to you. He's going to show you if that person is your spouse. He's going to tell you that. Don't just, they love God, let me hook up with them. Because everybody that say they love God don't really love God. They using God to get you. They trying to take you off of what God got you at and what God's trying to do for you. And the enemy, I told somebody this today, the enemy come in every size, every shape, every color. He come wrapped up in that gift that you've been waiting for. But my God, if you listen to God, if you wait on the Father, and you allow him to lead him to you, mean you ain't gonna have nothing to worry about. Don't get me wrong now. You get in relationships, get in marriages. Yeah, nothing's perfect. Nothing is perfect. You gonna argue, you might have disagreements, whatever the case may be. That's gonna happen. But if God called it to be, it's gonna be. You're better than having somebody that's constantly belittling you. You're better than having somebody treating you low life. You're better than having somebody compromise you and compromise your worth. You're better than being somebody's second choice. You're better than what you're going through. You're better than that. So I don't know, whoever you are, what you may be dealing with. You might be in a marriage now, a bad marriage. If you know God ain't called that marriage to be, you know what you need to do. You might be in a relationship dating somebody. If that man putting his hands on you, if that man already sleeping with these different women, you need to let that go. God showed me warning signs, y'all. I'm telling y'all, God showed me warning signs. I tried to put God somewhere where he wasn't. God wasn't in that. But because my heart was so set on God, I'm going to serve God. I want my relationship to reflect God and exemplify Jesus and everything about it. I tried to put him in a place where he was never in the beginning. And I never want to do that again. Don't put God somewhere where he's not. Don't put him in a relationship that he's not in. Don't put him in that. If he didn't put it together, it's not going to work. I don't care how much you cry. I don't care how much you pray. If he did not call it to be, it will not be. If his hands is not in it, it's not going to work. Yes, we're going to fall into our flesh sometimes. And if you led by your flesh, you're going to find yourself in a mess, because you're going to find yourself in a relationship that you're not even happy in. You're going to find yourself in a relationship where you're struggling, where you're going through, all because what? You chose to follow flesh. You didn't listen to God. You didn't get in that word. You didn't take heed to him. And I can talk about this because I went through this, because I've been through this. I went through this for almost a year and a half, and I had this man playing with my mind, had me trying to compromise my walk with God. It got so bad to the point he said, you're going to church too much. You always want to do ministry, this and that. You're putting the church before me and my Lord. And I'm saying to myself, how you going to say that when you out here committing adultery? You doing what you're doing. So I'm putting the church ahead of my Lord. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to put God ahead of anybody any day. I don't care who you are. Because at the end of the day, it is God who will sustain me. It is God who is keeping me. And it is God who is going to continue to keep me. So regardless of what's happened or what's took place, God has been my everything, y'all. This walk has been lonely. It has. I done slept by myself for so long, y'all. To tell you the truth, it really don't bother me to sleep alone. I'm just saying. It's just, I know better. If I know what I know now, if I knew it then, I would have not got married. If God ever gave me that opportunity or he would just say, well, I'll reverse all this. Would you still want to marry him? No, I wouldn't want to marry him. Because that's not God's best. That was not God's best. So I just want to encourage y'all tonight. Relationship, married people, keep God in it. If that marriage is of God, it's gonna work itself out. But if it's not, I don't. Just let it go. Because if somebody meant to be in your life, if somebody meant to be with you, God gonna make sure that person be in your life. You ain't gotta force that person. You ain't gotta beg that person to see. You ain't gotta do none of that. That person is gonna see that. They're going to already know. And one thing about a man, when that man finds a wife, that man finds a good thing. That man, it's not going to take this man 5, 10, 15 years to realize that you're his good thing. If you're the one that God gave to him, he's going to recognize that. He's going to already know, just like women. We're going to know if that man is for us, if that's the man that God has given us. We're going to know that. There's not going to be a question. It's not going to be a doubt about it. Now, if you've been hurt, if you went through something like this, similar to what I've discussed with you guys, yeah, when that time comes, you might feel a certain way. I'm not even going to lie to you, because when people come my way, I just be like, all right, God, I don't know what's going on, or why these people coming at me like this, why all these men popping out the woodworks. But, I mean, That ain't nothing but the enemy trying to cause the deception. That ain't nothing but the enemy trying to take me out of my place. And right now, I can't afford to be out of place with God. I got to stay in His will. It's costly. When you step out of the will of God, it's a costly thing. And you're going to be held accountable for that relationship. If God told you, don't get in that relationship, this ain't who I want you to marry, and you marry that person anyway, you're going to be held accountable for that. And me, I accept accountability all the way. I accept full accountability on my behalf for my actions. I accept accountability that I married somebody I shouldn't have had married. I accept accountability for putting up with the things I put up with because I didn't know any better. I didn't know my worth. I accept accountability, and accountability plays a big part. Did my ex-husband ever apologize for what he did? No, he never. He never said, I'm sorry. He never said, forgive me. Do I dwell on that? No, because you can't dwell. You can't dwell on if a person says sorry or not, because you'll get to a point in your life where regardless if that person ever apologizes to you, or regardless if that person, ever says, well, I'm sorry or forgive me for this, you'll have peace. And I'm at a place in my life where that peace is here. Regardless if he ever said, I'm sorry or forgive me, I'm going to be all right because I got the Father. And the Father is who's going to keep working on my heart. The Father is the one that's going to keep healing me. The Father is the one that's going to keep sustaining me. And I personally, I just thank God. I just thank God, y'all. And I'm not mad at him and his wife. I'm not. I don't wish anything bad on them or anything like that. I wish them well. Whatnot. Do I forgive him? I mean, yeah. I can't hold it in my heart no more. I can't hold it in my heart because I ain't going to have peace if I hold it in my heart. And I thank God it just got to a place like that. And anybody, if it's anybody that's looking at this video, if you are in adultery, you need to get out of the adulterous affair. If you're committing adultery, if you're still married, I don't care if y'all married legally and been separated 10 years, get out of that adulterous relationship. It's still adultery because you're still married to your spouse. If your spouse cheating and you cheating, stop that. Either y'all going to make it work or y'all going to part your ways. Because God looks at that. God sees everything and you're going to be held accountable for that. So my heart goes out to anybody that's been through this. My heart goes out to anybody that's caught in an adulterous affair. You're worth so much more than being somebody's side chick or somebody's side dude or side boo. You're worth being somebody's wife. You're worth being somebody's husband. Don't settle for less. Don't settle for what you can just get. And a lot of people don't know the difference because of their upbringing. Some people will talk, well, it's okay to be the side chick. It's okay to be the other woman. It's not okay. It is not okay. It's not okay to be second best. It's not. So if you're in that relationship with somebody that's married and you're single, get out of it. If you're married and you're in a relationship with another married person, get out. I'm telling you, nothing good is going to happen. Nothing good is going to happen when you do that because you're going against God's original order. God didn't mean for us to marry folks and to be cheating on them. And my advice, if you know you can't keep it in your pants, or you know you can't keep your legs closed, you might as well not get married. I just got to put it out there like that. Because if you can't be committed to one person, why get married? Matter of fact, if you can't be committed to God, why get married? Because you got to be committed to Him first. That's the first person you got to be committed to is God. More than anything. Establish that relationship with God. God will continue to sustain y'all. Now, on my behalf, I really enjoyed telling this testimony, y'all, because, and it's a lot more. It goes a lot deeper. I'm gonna get on another video and do that. But it took me a long time to get to this place to be able to talk about it, because I used to cry about it. You know, people would bring it up or the name up, and I just be like, oh my God, and I would weep about it, y'all. But I'm at a place now where it doesn't hurt. Is there a scar there? I'm gonna tell you, there's a scar, but it's not a bad scar. This scar is a reminder of why you can't settle. Anytime my mind may want to settle for something or somebody, it always takes me back to what I went through. And I have to remember that pain that I had to experience. I had to remember the ups and downs of what I went through. I had to remember the suffering. And when I begin to reflect on that and I begin to remember that, that reminds me why you don't settle. Because if you settle, you're going to go back to the same thing that you was experiencing before. Matter of fact, you're probably going to go through worse than what you experienced the first time. And I never want to experience that again, y'all. I don't wish that type of pain on my worst enemy. I don't care who you are. I don't wish that pain on anybody. And I you know, I thank God, y'all. I got to thank God more than anything, because my daddy done kept me, y'all. I'm telling you, I was bitter, mad, angry, upset. I really want to snap on, you know, everybody. Everybody. You know, I was angry because I felt like did I deserve what I got? No. By no means. I didn't deserve what I got. No, I didn't commit adultery. I didn't cheat. As I said, I was the praying wife. I did what I was supposed to do. But I realized there's a purpose in everything that we go through. Everything we go through, there's a lesson. Some lessons, a lot of lessons are painful. And it takes going through pain and experiencing these things for us to really, open our eyes. Excuse me, y'all. But I thank God for it, y'all, because it's made me more aware. And this is why when I do my coaching, this is why when I do my inspirational stuff and I do my sessions with my ladies, this is how I'm able to just really break it down to them and talk to them, because I couldn't tell you how to heal and remove a relationship or go on about your life or begin the healing process unless I done been through it and experienced it myself. I can't tell you how to do things different in your marriage or how to be a good wife if I've never been a wife myself. I can't tell you how to be single if I've never been single. So yes, it takes a learning experience. And I thank God for the learning experiences. I thank God for allowing whatever had to happen. If I can go back and change it, like I said, I wouldn't have never got married. No ma'am, no sir. I would have never, ever gotten married to him. I would have waited on God. I would have waited totally on God. And I encourage you guys tonight, please wait on God. Please wait on God, because if you don't wait on God, some of y'all might make a mistake that you can't reverse from. So many people are in unhappy marriages now. They know their spouse cheating. They know their spouse ain't for them, but they continue to stay because they're so accustomed. They're so used to being in it that long. They don't know how to get out. It's pain has become normal to them. And yes, there's an addiction to pain. People can be addicted to pain and going through and stuff like that, literally. But I mean, hey, it ain't for me. I'd rather roll with God all day and let the Lord do what he got to do in my life, and to continue to prep me and to continue to keep me and do what he has to do in my life, because God's will is going to be done in my life regardless. His will is going to be done in your life. But the question is, are you willing to wait on God? I mean, willingly, are you willing to wait on God? Waiting can be hard. Waiting can be impatient. Waiting can be frustrating, because you'll find yourself saying, God, when? But I'm a firm believer you don't want to rush God's process, because if you rush it, it ain't going to come out how it needs to be. You're going to find yourself just totally unprepared. Let God work on you, men. Let God work on you, women. Let him go in and clean your heart out and just Just take all that stuff out that's in and let him fix you and get you right. Because if he fix you and get you right, when you do find that person, you ain't going to have all those problems. You're not going to have all those complications. You're going to be able to get through that thing. So that is my encouragement to you guys on tonight. I'm looking at some of the comments you guys have. I can't read all of them. They're just going so fast. But, I mean, if you guys have any questions, feel free to inbox me. I mean, feel free to comment below. You know, I do the coaching. If you want to, sign up for coaching sessions and if you're going through a situation similar like this, or if you're, in a predicament where you don't know your worth or you don't know which direction, feel free to inbox me. I don't mind helping you guys. I don't mind helping you guys. Let me see. I'm reading these comments, y'all. Dean Carter. I think that's your name. Dean Carter, I don't know why you would say you hate God, but I do realize in life there are certain circumstances and there are certain situations that we go through that can be painful. There are certain things that we may have to face, and we wonder where God is. Does God really care? And yes, sometimes it can make your heart, your faith feel a certain way. But I'm telling you, Dean, God loves you. Regardless of what you're saying, Dean, God loves you and God cares for you. But you have to know that. I don't know what has happened in your life. I don't know what took place to make you feel the way you're feeling and what will make you say something like that. But regardless if you hate him, he still loves you. And you need to know that, my Lord, he still loves you. He gave up his only son so that you can have eternal life. He gave up a part of himself. That's love right there. So I don't know. I encourage you. I'm going to keep you lifted in our ministry prayers. Lift your name up before God and ask God to come in your heart and reveal himself to you and for God to do a work in you. So you can get to that place where you no longer say, I hate God, but you're going to get to that place where you say, I love God. Amen. See, y'all, I done got a little bit excited. That's why I don't get on live like this a lot. I really don't. But I see that I need to do it more often. I wasn't going to get on here. I said I was going to type it up, but I was like, man, it's going to take forever to type what I got to say. So I'm glad some of you ladies encouraged me and told me to get up here and get on here and, to do it, because I feel better just talking on this live. It beats doing all the typing, and I wanted you guys to hear it personally come out of my mouth and to hear, this is something real. This ain't a made up testimony and or none of that. It's nothing but the grace of God that I'm still here, still standing. It's by God's grace that we're all here. All here. And I thank God for each of you guys. And you guys encourage me, whether you realize it or not. You guys encourage me. You really do. Sometimes, as I say, sometimes the encourager needs to be encouraged. Sometimes the encourager needs to hear it's gonna be all right. God has you. God worked it out. And I tell people that all the time. Don't think just because you hold a certain ministry title, or you're a pastor or a coach or whatever the case may be. We all go through and we all need that encouragement. And we need somebody to tell us that God loves us and it's going to be all right. That we can get through what it is that we're going through. We all need somebody that's going to tell us that. And I'm just glad that we have a Father that loves us like that. God don't have to do what he does for us. God can just, especially how we be treating God, God can just say, whatever and keep it moving. But God loves us that much that God cares about our well-being. God cares about what we cares about. He cares about our heart and what's the matters of our heart and what the issues are. And I'm just so glad, y'all. I gotta say, I'm glad that God has never gave up on me. Even though I done wanted to quit so many times, I thank God that he continued to give me that strength that I needed to keep going. So don't give up. Don't lose hope. Don't lose sight. You continue to trust in the Father and know that God has worked out every situation that we have laid before Him. We just have to continue to stand in the right place. We have to continue to trust and seek God, especially in this day and this time that we are in. Time is winding down. Time is short. So we have to continue to be in that place with God. If you don't have a relationship with God, I encourage you to get a relationship with God. It's very crucial, because once you establish that relationship with God, life is going to flow a lot easier with God in it. See, when you're in the world, when you don't know God, when you don't have Jesus, my Lord, the road is bumpier. It's a lot harder. But when you are going through and you have God on your side, when you're walking with Jesus, even though that road is hard, it won't be as bumpy, because He's going to walk us through that thing. He's going to keep us, and it's going to run smoothly as long as He's included in it. But apart from God, if you try to do things without God, it ain't going to last, and it's not going to flow smoothly. It's not going to go right, because you didn't put Him in it. So I just encourage you, good folks. I'm getting ready to get off this thing. Feel free. If you got a question, inbox me. Want to do coaching sessions, inbox me. If you got a testimony, something you want to share, you can inbox me. Feel free to share this with a friend, or whatever the case may be, because this right here, this might help somebody who's going through this situation. This might help somebody that's going through and somebody that's struggling. People really need to hear about this, especially us women, my Lord. Us women, we have to know about this, because we can't keep doing this. That's why we missing out on God's best for us, because we're settling for less. Amen. Well, thank you guys for joining me. I'm going to do a video again soon, but I want to say that I love you guys to life, and I pray that you all have a beautiful, blessed night in the Lord. I pray that you guys stay warm and you stay out of this cool weather. And more than anything, I pray that you strengthen your relationship with God, and that you trust God and you keep Him first in your life. And if you keep Him first in your life, everything is going to work out for your good. Amen. Bye-bye, you guys.